Hello and welcome to Stripe Dialogues. Today we have with us Lieutenant General P.R. Dunker, who is going to discuss Qatar. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, good evening. Good evening to everyone, and good evening, Dushyant. It's a great pleasure to be back on Stripe, and you've chosen a very apt subject uh, about Qatar, decoding Qatar's shocking move. I think it's a fantastic subject for you to choose. And at the outset, I'd like to tell everyone that please do subscribe to Stripe because it covers uh, very all strategic and defense affairs very competently. So yeah,
Thank you,
that's
sir.
how it is. So let's start.
थैंक यू सर कतर की हिस्ट्री बड़ी चेकर्ड रही है. इट्स अ स्टोरी अबाउट अ नेशन जिसको कि ब्रिटिश ने क्रिएट किया था. एक्चुअली ये पहले बहराइन का ही एक प्रोटेक्टरेट होता था. उसके बाद इसकी स्टोरी में ना एक बड़ा सा उछाल आया. इट इज नॉट अ स्टोरी ऑफ रैग्स टू रिचेस. मैं तो बोलूंगा इट इज अ स्टोरी ऑफ रैग्स टू विंडफॉल. और दैट हैपेंड व्हेन दे गॉट गैस. और उसके बाद कतर का पूरा चेहरा बदल गया. It has one of the largest military bases of US military, houses a large presence of Pakistani defense forces. Turkey is also having a base here. इनका इनके यहाँ टेरर के हुज हु सारे यहीं रहते हैं. चाहे आप हमास को ले लीजिए, चाहे आप तालिबान को ले लीजिए, चाहे आप मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड को ले लीजिए, यू नेम इट, हाउदीस को ले लीजिए, ये सारे के सारे जो है ना कतर में इन्होंने अपना अड्डा बना रखा है. और ये इन ग्रुप्स को रिमोर्सलेसली फंड करता है, बिना बिना कुछ सोचे कि भाई इसका इंटरनेशनल फॉल आउट क्या होगा. उस इनको इनको फंड करता है. इट ऑल्सो ट्राइज टू एक्ट एज अ नेगोशिएटर ना. वो लोगों के बीच में समझौता करने में बड़ा अच्छा है ना. जब आपने आपको याद होगा दोहा में अफगान तालिबान का और यूएस का आपस में एक मीटिंग हुआ जिसमें उन्होंने वहाँ के जो करंट गवर्नमेंट थी उसको आउट ही कर दिया. और उसके बिना इन लोगों ने एग्रीमेंट किया. उसका नतीजा क्या हुआ ये तो आप सभी लोग जानते हैं. फिर भी इसको इसके ऊपर कोई आंच आंच नहीं आई. इनफैक्ट ये एक बहुत बड़ा प्रोपेगेंडा मशीन भी अपने पास रखे हुए है. उसका बड़ा बड़ा नाम है अल जजीरा, जहाँ पर सभी को छूट है आकर के जो बोलना है बोले, जिसके खिलाफ बोलना है बोले, इन द नेम ऑफ ओपन सोसाइटी, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन वगैरह के तहत. सऊदीज लेकिन लेकिन इतना सब होते हुए भी कुछ लोग इनसे खुश नहीं है. उसमें सबसे नंबर वन लिस्ट है सऊदी अरेबिया की और फिर यूएई की. इन्होंने इनके ऊपर ब्लॉकेड भी किया था लेकिन उस ब्लॉकेड का फर्क नहीं पड़ा क्योंकि इन्होंने अपने आप को डाइवर्सिफाई कर लिया. तुर्की के साथ ट्रेड कर ली, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया के साथ ट्रेड कर ली और ऊपर से गैस की जरूरत तो सभी को होती है. तो इसलिए बाद में इन्होंने इस पूरे ब्लॉकेड को खत्म कर दिया. लेकिन मैटर्स केम टू अ हेड जब इन्होंने इंडिया के खिलाफ एक अटैक किया. 8 इंडियन नेवी के जो वेटरन ऑफिसर्स हैं जो कि वहां गए थे इनकी इनकी डिफेंस को बनाने के लिए, इनके डिफेंस फोर्सेस की बढ़ोतरी करने के लिए. उनको उनको एक कैपिटल पनिशमेंट के तहत एक झूठे झूठे सच्चे इल्जाम लगाए हैं. पता नहीं कितना सच है कितना झूठ है, अभी तक कोई प्रूफ दिया नहीं है इन लोगों ने. तो सर ये कतार भला क्या है? हमाद खमीम हमाद हमाद
अल्तनी.
खमीम हमाद खमीम तमीम जो है वो क्या कर रहा है? व्हाई हैज ही डन दिस अगेंस्ट भारत? तो फ्लोर इज योर सर. आप इसके ऊपर थोड़ा
Yeah,
रोशनी डालिए.
fine. आप बता दूंगा. Qatar is a nation which very few people understand. आपने कुछ मोटे मोटे तौर पर बताया. यही
हम्म.
चीज मैं पहले विस्तार में एक्सप्लेन करूंगा. And then we'll see what the whole story is. Look, the story is to me unimportant because वहाँ षड्यंत्र रचता रहता है. कोई there is one group which is against India, which is no doubt, और उसने Indians को फंसा दिया. It is also there's a group against Italians because the all the Indian naval officers were actually working for an Italian firm, right?
ओके.
And and the Englishmen were not very happy about it, and so they did some snitch. So they put all these people in this thing. The Italian firm is out of the whole story now. The Omani guy who was running that Italian firm is also out of the whole story. And our naval officers have got stuck there. Okay. So what we'll do, if you don't mind, हम एक पूरा presentation देंगे कतर के
ओके,
बारे में in detail,
बिल्कुल,
ताकि हमें
बिल्कुल।
बिल्कुल जानकारी हो कि कतर के साथ किस तरीके से डील करना है। अगर वो हमें नहीं पता तो
हुँ,
हम कहीं नहीं जाएंगे। कहीं सुनी बात से ना बात बनती नहीं है। और मेरा मानना ये है कि कतर बोला जाता है इट्स अ गैस सुपर पावर, पर मेरा मानना ये है इट्स अ जियोपॉलिटिकल स्विट्जरलैंड। स्विट्जरलैंड क्यों?
हुँ।
ये ये इम्पोर्टेंट है, इसलिए मैंने बहुत सोच के ये चुना है कि
तो
स्विट्जरलैंड
बिल्कुल
जियोपॉलिटिकली।
आपने सही नाम दिया बिल्कुल।
Yeah. Now, if you go back into the last century, during the Second World War, Switzerland was between Germany, France, you know, and all these big powers in Europe, and it was in the middle of Second World War, and it did not have any kind of a repercussion. उसके ऊपर एक गोला भी नहीं गिरा। क्यों? सारे लोग, चाहे वो नाजी क्यों ना हो, या एक्सिस वाले क्यों ना हो, या इटालियंस क्यों ना हो,
सब वहीं
सब ने
बैठे
उन
थे।
वो स्विट्जरलैंड के अंदर पैसा रखते थे और वहां बैठते थे और वह मिलते थे भी थे। और स्विट्जरलैंड जो है ना, सबका पैसा रख के, सबके जेब में हाथ रख के बोलता था कि भाई हमें कुछ करो तो आपका पैसा गया।
बिल्कुल।
Now that has continued. So Qatar today is also geopolitical Switzerland. कैसे हुआ
हुँ,
ये कहानी? This is more important for us to understand, right? Okay, इतना छोटा सा देश कैसे हुआ? Okay, पहले कतर एक छोटा सा jutting out
बिल्कुल।
peninsula है in the
हुँ,
Gulf, which साउथ में जो है सऊदी अरेबिया है, और थोड़े हटके यूएई है, उसके वेस्ट में बहरेन है, और अक्रॉस
हुँ,
द गल्फ ईरान है, राइट?
ईरान।
ईरान, इराक, सब कुछ। तो अगर आप देखेंगे तो लोकेशनली इट इज बिटवीन द टू बिग पावर्स ऑफ द इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड, ईरान एंड सऊदी अरेबिया। सो देयर इज अ पुल फ्रॉम बोथ साइड्स ऑन दिस। अगर आप
कहीं
देखेंगे,
कहीं
या
पाकिस्तान की याद नहीं दिलाता ये?
ये पाकिस्तान की तरह ही है एक तरीके से देखो, बट पाकिस्तान तो कंगाल है, इनके पास गैस है।
वही डिफरेंस है बस।
ओके, हाँ वही। ओके, अगर हम देखेंगे तो कतर जो है was a British protectorate in 1916 to ward off the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman
हुँ,
Empire को दफा करने के लिए ये they went under the British, and it gained independence in 1971. तब
यस।
तक इसमें क्या था, there was hardly any उत्पादन, वो सिर्फ वहाँ पर्ल डाइविंग वगैरह होता था। Basically, it's a small country, population around 333,000, and
3
that
लाख
is
की।
the the Qatari population is just 300, मतलब 3.5 लाख।
करेक्ट।
बाकी के जो एक्सपैट रेट्स हैं वो है 2.3 मिलियन,
तो 20
और
लाख के
उसमें
करीब।
8 लाख, 20 लाख, 8 लाख तो इंडियन है, और
बिल्कुल,
इंडियन जो है सबसे ज्यादा एक्सपैट रेट्स हैं वहाँ, ये भी बात है।
बिल्कुल।
ओके, और 80% ऑफ पीपल लिव इन दोहा। इट्स ड्राई डेजर्ट क्लाइमेट, लिमिटेड ग्राउंड वाटर एंड सरफेस वाटर। इसमें
हुँ,
कोई एग्रीकल्चर का उत्पादन नहीं होता, ना इंडस्ट्री होता है, इसके लिए लागू नहीं है, इधर कुछ नहीं होता। जैसे मैंने
बिल्कुल।
बताया, इट्स वेस्ट बिटवीन द किंगडम ऑफ सऊदी अरेबिया विच स्पैन्स इट्स एंटायर लैंड बॉर्डर, एंड ईरान विच सराउंड्स इट बाय सी ऑलमोस्ट। ठीक?
बिल
सो it's got a maritime boundary with Iran and a land border with Saudi Arabia. It follows Sharia law. ओके, 1973 में जब ये पहले ऑयल शॉक हुआ था, its oil revenues increased dramatically, not Gulf War, oil revenues increased dramatically, and Qatar became one of the highest per capita income countries in the world. And now Qatar's proven gas reserves are the third largest in the world. And since 1991, after the first Gulf War, its revenues have soared, hell of a lot. And that was the time when the gas was also came into play in addition to. In 1991, Qatar played a significant role in the Gulf War. What happened was Iraq, when it got defeated, right? After that, Qatar realized that we need to do something. We can't survive here. And US policy also shifted after the first Gulf War. And thereafter, US said there's a we need a full time presence.
Correct.
and it led to a regional, balance of power. Because remember, at that time, Saddam Hussein was still in power. Iraq was a big country. Iran was
Yeah.
also there. Within Iran के साथ भी USA का चलता नहीं था. So USA propped up Saudi Arabia. Okay. Now this created a security dilemma for Qatar.
Qatar. Qatar.
Now Qatar का problem ये था कि भाई कौन हमें हड़प लेगा.
Hmm.
All three powers, Iran, Iraq, and if Iran, Saddam Hussein could eat up Kuwait, tomorrow they can do the same thing against Qatar also.
बिल्कुल.
And even Saudi Arabia could do it. And so was Iran. So it was in a security dilemma. So it began to look for tools for its survival. Regional environment had gone bad. 1992 में, it had a defense agreement with USA. And another in 1994 with France. इससे क्या है कि it balanced these three regional powers with an
Hmm.
external power, superpower. It saw that USA had helped out Kuwait. So if I take USA beforehand, I'll survive and no one will eat me up. Okay. From a Qatari point of view, Qatar sees Saudi Arabia as the greatest immediate threat to its own rule and independence. Why? Because it has a land border. Okay. And this fear stems from its neighbors' historical claims on Qatar. जैसे आपने बताया, Saudi
Hmm.
Arabia has claims on Qatar. And it has also done a coup in
Correct.
Qatar.
Hmm.
Okay, 1996 में it failed, but it tried. जब इससे पहले कि यूएसए का पैर इधर पूरा जम गया, Qatar tried this.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, Saudi Arabia tried this and Qatar.
सऊदी अरेबिया ने कोशिश किया था.
Yeah. Now you have to understand Qatar. Qatar, what are the major assets of Qatar? It has an ambitious ruling elite, जिसके पास एक प्लान है और एक विजन है. Okay. It has availability of vast natural resources, particularly natural gas. It is financially independent, which helps it strengthen its political autonomy. Right? इसीलिए ये ज़्यादा कायम, it's not bothered about Iran or Saudi Arabia. Okay. What has Qatar done? Qatar has successfully turned regional and international contradictions to its advantage. And
Very nice.
may I dare say, it has rolled in the Sharia law and its Islamic features into this, and
Yeah.
making and unmaking alliances with a view to transforming its security needs to ensure its own security. It is a friend to all and a friend to none. बरसाती है ये, ठीक है? तो that's how it is. वैसे वहां बरसात तो होता नहीं है, फिर भी बरसाती है. Okay. Firstly, it is a gas superpower. 1990 से लेकर it has expanded its LNG production to become a gas superpower. Its GDP is something like 236 billion USD. Importantly, it has a reputation as a reliable supplier and an energy partner. It looks for long-term deals and not short-term gains. That's one thing about Qatar. And that is one card we have to think when we think of Qatar and India. Because India and Qatar have a deep energy relationship.
Yeah.
ठीक? Okay. मैं अभी से बता रहा हूँ, will come when we talk, I'll talk. It has inexhaustible sources of money for its foreign policy. That's another important thing. क्योंकि 3.5 लाख लोग हैं, उनको 236 बिलियन यूएस डॉलर होता है, तो पैसे की कमी नहीं है इसके पास. It assures itself of US protection by providing the US military with bases, buying American weapon systems, and standing by as a regional partner. पैसा उससे ले, right? पैसा उसको देता है. Al-Udeid Air Base है. It is the single most important air base in the region, and it protects Qatar from its aggressive neighbors, Iran and Saudi Arabia. And Qatar follows a soft power strategy by investing in media, culture, education, tourism and sports. आपने तो मीडिया के बारे में बात किया, but ये सब कुछ भी है.
बिल्कुल.
तो बात ये है, एक
वर्ल्ड
हाँ,
कप फुटबॉल
वही हुआ था, वो आता हूं मैं. तो बात यह है कि आप अगर ये मैप देखिए कतर का, सब लोग आजकल बोलते हैं कि यूएस का बोलबाला इस इलाके में कम हो गया। जब मैं आऊंगा बताऊंगा कतर कहाँ है। कतर इज सेंट्रली लोकेटेड इन द मिडिल ईस्ट। हुएवर कंट्रोल्स कतर कंट्रोल्स मिडिल ईस्ट,
कंट्रोल सिर्फ
एंड
पर्शियन
यूएस हैज अ ह्यूज मिलिट्री बेस देयर। इसके बारे में
गल्फ।
2 मिनट में अभी आगे बात करूंगा।
बिल्कुल।
ओके ओके। Soft power, it uses soft power defensively to ward off danger surrounding the emirate, right? Which is from the regional forces. Iran तो अभी है ही नहीं, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, okay, and all other people, UAE also. And it uses soft power offensively by expanding its area of influence. इसका जो पैसा है और influence जो मिलता है पैसे के साथ, it uses it for political influence and it has spread its influence far and wide.
कहीं
And
ना
ये
कहीं
जो influence है, it is in 1 minute. It is in two parts. One is regional influence, and second the international influence with the Western society, and
मैं
now with China also. Yeah. Now your question.
नो नो मैं सिर्फ इसमें ऐड करना चाहता हूँ कि कहीं न कहीं इसने अपने हार्ड पावर को भी आउटसोर्स करके अपने पास रख लिया है।
Yeah.
क्योंकि तो
Correct.
दोनों को
ये
मिला
US
करके वो अपनी सिक्योरिटी एंश्योर कर रहा है।
Correct. I agree with you completely. So, but mainly it uses soft power because it doesn't have its own hard power. Hard power is borrowed hard power. Okay. Okay. Al Jazeera. Now, one of the main instruments of hard power, or rather soft power, call it what you want, is media. 96 में इसने Al Jazeera it launched. What did it do? It provided space for debate around subjects that mainstream Arab media considers taboo. जो वहां कवर नहीं होता था ये यहाँ देते। Al Jazeera provided detailed news on all Arab states. It allows opposition figures and intellectuals from these countries to have their say. देखिए हम सोचते हैं Al Jazeera covers regional news, बट बात यह है कि जितने यहाँ अरब वर्ल्ड और मिडिल ईस्ट में ऑपोजिशन है वो आके अल जजीरा में बात करते हैं। So it controls opposition movements in all countries through Al Jazeera. जो लोग अपने देश में नहीं बोल सकता है वो अल जजीरा में आके बोलते हैं। उससे क्या है, इसको लिवरेज मिल जाता है। Now Saudi Arabia vehemently resisted it. Okay. Interestingly, Al Jazeera not only reported on the domestic political situation in the kingdom, but also offered Saudi Arabian dissidents a must-choose forum. So it plays both sides, even with Saudi Arabia. That's why Saudi Arabia got angry with it. UAE also got angry with it, and they imposed a blockade.
Yeah.
Okay. पर उससे कुछ हुआ नहीं। ओके क्यों हुआ नहीं? लैंड बॉर्डर वाज स्मॉल, दे कुडंट invade because US was sitting there with a big base, or
Yes.
it was playing off Iran also. So it also allows Israeli politicians, government and army spokesmen. अगर हम सोचते हैं कि ये इजराइल के खिलाफ है, वो भी नहीं है। इट इज वो इजराइल को भी देता है, मदद करता है। Since 1998, the channel exclusively received the video and audio messages of Al-Qaeda. अल
Absolutely.
Al-Qaeda से 98 की बात बोल रहा हूं मैं, आज की बात नहीं है।
बिल्कुल।
And कभी कभी it played out all their comments and their videos without any cutting
एडिटिंग,
or editing, full
राइट,
length.
गोरी
Now
सीन्स।
the point is, yeah, Al Jazeera lost popularity during Arab Spring. Arab Spring में क्या किया? Qatar made the mistake of helping Muslim Brotherhood. जैसे इसने मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड को हेल्प किया, all the countries in that area started going against Qatar. और उसने कुछ हद तक पीछे कर लिया, but it still supports Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, sports diplomacy. Now सब जानते हैं कि 22 में इसने फीफा वर्ल्ड कप होस्ट किया, but the fact is Qatar has invested in sports and major sporting events in Doha. And it's जैसे पैसा मिला इसको गैस से और ऑयल से, it started expanding sports facilities. 2006 में it hosted Asian Games. और उसके बीच में बहुत सारे sports activities goes on in Qatar, including F1 वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. Okay.
करेक्ट।
Now this has become a household name around the world for sports. उससे क्या है, सबका इंटरेस्ट हो गया इसमें, कोई इसको they don't want to touch this, because all international events and all international sports bodies have an interest in Qatar today. It has invested in infrastructure needed for major events like stadiums, hotels, transport, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. So there's a huge construction boom out there. Because of the construction boom, people want to come there and take contracts. So no one wants to harm Qatar. International contracts सब Qatar internationally दे देता है सबको. Okay. So मीडिया, कल्चर, टूरिज्म, स्पोर्ट्स. सो अभी जब स्पोर्ट्स नहीं होता तो टूरिज्म शुरू हो जाता है, डेजर्ट टूरिज्म. सो एनी वे यू लुक एट इट, एंड इट डजंट हैव इट्स ओन पीपल. बल्क ऑफ द पीपल आर फ्रॉम इंडिया, जो मैंने ऑलरेडी बता दिया. पाकिस्तानी को भी ले आते हैं, सबको लेके आते हैं. ओके, कतर का स्ट्रेटेजी क्या है? इट इज अ लॉ ऑफ सर्वाइवल. When face pressure from Iran, it goes towards Saudi Arabia. When Saudi Arabia pushes, it goes to Iran. If both push, it goes to Turkey. Mind you, it goes to Turkey also.
Correct.
Okay. Now,
Correct.
if the regionally it has problems, it goes to USA. Okay. Qatar has partnered with international powers to become part of the economic system of the globe. Globalization, it had a big hand. Qatar is an early member of OPEC, founding member of GCC, and member of Arab League. Like I said, the only exception to this rule was it gambled on the Muslim Brotherhood during the Arab Spring, and that backfired. After that, it has, why it wants to support Muslim Brotherhood and Arab Spring? Because it feels if democracy or some kind of thing comes like that, और तख्ता पलट जाए बाकी अरब वर्ल्ड में, और ये सऊदी अरेबिया और ईरान में भी कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो जाए, तो इसका लॉ ऑफ सर्वाइवल फिट हो जाएगा. दैट इज व्हाई इट सपोर्ट्स मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड. आई मीन इट डज एवरीथिंग फॉर लॉ ऑफ सर्वाइवल. सो कतर, द थर्ड पॉइंट, गैस सुपर पावर, जियोपॉलिटिकल स्विट्जरलैंड और लॉ ऑफ सर्वाइवल. ये तीन चीज याद रखना चाहिए. ओके, लेट्स नाउ टॉक ऑफ US and Qatar military relations. Qatar in 92 signed a defense agreement with Washington. Qatar contributed more than $8 billion in developing the Al Udeid Air Base. Okay. In 2003, okay, it served as the US Central Command headquarters and one of the main launching sites of invasion of Iraq. Second Gulf War. Okay.
Correct.
First Gulf War, the whole thing went through Saudi. Second Gulf War, it went through this place. Now, interestingly, it is host to the US Central Command forward, US Air Force Central Command forward, US Special Operations Central Command, and Combined Joint Interagency Task Force. On Syria, US Central Command's Combined Air Operations Center and US Air Force Air Expeditionary Wing. So, US has large stakes in Qatar militarily. Because it has large stakes and it has put itself in that Al Udeid Air Base, it provides Qatar protection and it dominates. ठीक है, आज के दिन एक एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर ड्वाइट आइजनहोवर कतर में बैठा है. जैसे ये इजराइल और हमास का प्रॉब्लम शुरू हुआ, कतर में एक एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर चला गया. उससे क्या है, ईरान के ऊपर सीधा गन्स आर, इट्स देयर. ओके, नाउ देयर इज अ ह्यूज foreign military sales between US and Qatar, 26 billion.
Okay.
Is the cost of the cases which are ongoing cases between Qatar and US, FMS के जरिए. और इसमें सारे मैंने पूरा लिखा है, एयर डिफेंस, पैट्रियट, surface to surface air missiles, right, early warning radars, fighter aircraft. They are getting the most advanced F-15 in production, Apache helicopters, सब कुछ. Or all this agreements and purchases includes construction, ammunition, logistics, and training. सब कुछ. Okay. Qatar enables USA control Middle East, and no other country can come near it. बोलिए.
यहाँ एक क्वेश्चन था. यूएसए की जो रिलेशनशिप है सऊदी अरेबिया के साथ कुछ दिनों पहले उतनी अच्छी नहीं थी. कुछ उनके आपस में खटपट हो रही थी। उसके बाद फिर कुछ रिप्रोचमेंट हुआ और ये सऊदी अरेबिया इजराइल की डील डील तकरीबन तकरीबन लोग बोल रहे थे कि फाइनलाइज हो रही है। तो यूएस इसको कैसे बैलेंस करा, क्योंकि सऊदी अरेबिया और कतार की आपस में रिलेशनशिप उतनी अच्छी नहीं है, तो
Yes,
यूएस के लिए यूएस
that
के एक
uh,
डिलेमा है।
USA has this dilemma, but US has put its eggs in the Qatari basket. क्यों? सऊदी अरेबिया को बता दिया कि भाई अगर हम हैं तो कतर ईरान के अंडर नहीं जाएगा, अगर हम वहां नहीं हैं तो ईरान के अंडर चला जाएगा। और 2003 की बात याद रखिए, उस वक्त सदाम हुसैन was still in power, so the
ओके
threat was from Iran and you know Iraq.
ओके
Okay, so that is the balance it did. Even now, presence of USA there in such, and so in such proximity to Iran balances the whole equation out, right?
ओके
Okay, and Saudi Arabia can always deny that it has helped USA in any Middle East matters. So,
ओके
in fact, USA has created, and to my way of thinking, it has helped Qatar become a geopolitical Switzerland. Okay, okay, and what is more, you have to also understand USA is not dependent on Qatar for gas or energy, because USA itself is the energy surplus nation. In fact, today it is the largest exporter of energy in the world. तो
हम्म
ये जहां तक कतर और यूएसए का रिलेशनशिप है, ये एक तरफा है। कतर नीड्स यूएस मोर देन यूएस नीड्स कतर। या कतर, यूएस नीड्स कतर, बट कतर फॉर इट्स ओन सर्वाइवल नीड्स यूएस मोर। So it is everywhere you see there is a give and take going on. Okay, Turkey and Iran. Okay, in June 2017, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Bahrain cut off diplomatic, relations with Qatar, citing countries' support of groups which they considered extremist, and it gave a lot of leeway to Al Jazeera to do all this nonsense.
या
Okay, so what did Qatar do? It increased its relationship with Turkey. So अभी तुर्की को भी लेके आया, and Iran, also Iran. Okay, Turkey is Qatar's new regional protector. It plays off Saudi Arabia and UAE on one side and Iran on the other side. Now it is working with Turkey to support its allies in Libya and Syria. ये बात यही नहीं है कि सिर्फ तुर्की की, लिबिया एंड सीरिया में भी इसका बोलबाला है। It maintains a close relationship with Muslim Brotherhood. Most importantly, which many people don't know, Turkey has maintained a small military base in the Emirates since 2014. यानी 9 साल से वहां एक बेस है। And by 2019, there are more than 1,500 Turkish soldiers spread over 2 bases. Okay, so again, here it's brought Turkey in to as a counterweight to USA, and USA has allowed Turkey in because it's part of NATO.
NATO.
It's okay, and it has bought USA has allowed Turkey to come in because then it can balance out Iran and uh, Saudi Arabia also. तो
इंक्लूडिंग सऊदी
यहाँ क्या
अरेबिया।
है कि ये रिंगा रिंगा रोसेस चलता रहता है इधर। ये याद रखना, रिंगा रिंगा रोसेस इज द नेम ऑफ द गेम हियर। ओके, कतर चाइना। Qatar is the most important LNG provider for China. 30 to 40% of China's imported gas comes from Qatar. China is trying to increase this and work out a long-term agreement like India is doing. Okay. But China does not have the leeway which USA has. I mean, after this presentation, if someone says China is increasing its presence in and influence in Middle East, we have to rethink. भले ही थोड़ा डिप्लोमेटिक प्रेजेंस वगैरह होगा, बट द मेन मिलिट्री प्रेजेंस जो है ना, वो यूएसए का है। जिबूती का बेस जो चाइना का है वो तो टुच्चू है, और चाइना मेंटेन्स ओनली 3 ships ऑफ द स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मोज टू गिव एस्कॉर्ट टू एनर्जी गोइंग टू चाइना, क्योंकि अगर एक हफ्ता भी वो डिसरप्ट हो गया तो चाइना कैन पैक अप इट्स बैग्स। No, we talk of China as a big country, but इसका vulnerabilities बहुत हैं. इससे यहाँ पता चलता है how vulnerable China is. If there's a wider conflict tomorrow in West Asia, China will be the first sufferer. Okay. Now, Doha's foreign policy is based on political realism. Its foreign policy के जरिए its political and economic interests are taken care of. It has an ambition to play an influential regional role, which has been playing. Okay. Now, the role by Qatar, whether it's regional or international, you can praise it or you need not praise it, or you be critical of it, depending on which side you look at it from. आज के दिन हम बोल रहे हैं कि कतर बुरा है क्योंकि वो उसने 8 नेवल ऑफिसर्स को प्रिजन सेंटेंस दे दिया. बट few days back you said Qatar is your good friend. Okay. So you have to be depending on time and which direction you're looking at Qatar. Qatar is either a villain or a hero for you, or a facilitator, whatever you call it. Now, it has got the political ability to simultaneously establish relations with many countries and political forces. Now, that is why it gets the leverage to play, its game. It is ambiguity for some and confusion for others. Yeah. Egypt, Saudi Arabia and UAE, जो आपने पहले बताया था, feel but that Qatar supports Islamists and Islamist terrorists. It has been criticized for its support of militias, Hezbollah, Hamas, वगैरह सबके लिए. In fact, Al-Qaeda, IS, Hamas and Taliban. It is also accused of Muslim Brotherhood. What key roles it has played? Yeah, see the key roles. It has played a key role in political crisis in Lebanon. Way back in 2008, when Hezbollah was just coming up and it had invaded Beirut to grab power. It has mediated between Houthis and Yemeni president. Okay, Sanaa mein. So, वहाँ भी इसका हाथ है. It has helped a series of meetings between Taliban and US. Okay, and Qatar's first contacts with all the Afghan Islamists, right from Osama bin Laden, goes back to 1990s. जो मैंने पहले भी बताया. It has had a hand in the civil wars in Libya and Syria. It has, it has played go-between between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority and Fatah. Correct. In Jerusalem. So it has supported Hamas. It has supported the Palestinian Authority and even supported it financially. इसका contacts Israel के साथ है. Okay, ये 96 से है. Shimon Peres visited there, and there was a trade office which has opened in Doha. ये trade office कभी खुलता है, कभी बंद हो जाता है. वो मौसम की गर्मी के साथ ये खुलता है और बंद हो जाता है. Okay, Qatar was very active in that Muslim Brotherhood. It only gave up when it found that it wasn't all the Muslim Brotherhood people were kicked out by respective militaries in each of these areas: Libya, Syria, Tunisia, Egypt, वगैरह वगैरह. It was then that it has, but it still supports Muslim Brotherhood. Qatar has mediated between US and Iran in the prisoner swap deal. Abhi. Okay. Iran freed 5 Americans in exchange for Iranians held in the US and transfer of 6 billion in frozen Iranian money from Southern Korea, which again US has frozen again. Abhi. ये जैसे ये war चुड़ा ये है, and this was held by Qatar. And Qatar has also emerged as a mediator in African and African affairs. ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ Middle East में. ये peace process for Sudan and Darfur conflict में भी इसका हाथ है. तो जहां तक इसने क्या किया है कि इसने अपना हाथ फैला दिया. इससे क्या है? It feels that it can, handle everything, and everyone has interest in Qatar. Governments, non-governments, Islamists, non-Islamists, trade, everyone has interest in Qatar. So everyone is keeping Qatar afloat. So this is the whole thing of its policy of survival. Now let us talk of Qatar-India relations. Important to understand it because आजकल सब बोल रहे हैं कि कतर को ये कर दो. कोई तो ये भी बोल रहा है कि वहाँ do a क्या बोलते हैं उसको, रेड और इनको रिहा कर दो वगैरह वगैरह, इससे बड़ा बेवकूफी कुछ नहीं हो सकता. ओके. Qatar Indian relationship have been actually very good. Qatar exports to India LNG, LPG, chemicals, petrochemicals, fertilizers, plastics and aluminum articles. ये सब हमें चाहिए, not only for our energy, for your agriculture also. We sub export all items, सब्जी, cereals, rice, सब कुछ, electricity, electrical machinery, सब कुछ हम बेचते हैं, textile, garment, सब कुछ. वहां तो कुछ उगता नहीं है, कुछ बनता नहीं है. Bilateral trade between India and Qatar is $15 billion. India's export to Qatar is 1.83. India's import from Qatar is 13.19 billion.
Yeah.
India is among the top 4 largest export destinations for Qatar. This is a huge thing for us to trade with Qatar, leverage with Qatar. And Qatar, like I said, looks for long-term agreements. It knows that India will need a long-term requirement of gas. So it is prepared to give you gas cheaper on long-term contracts. Okay. And India is also among the top 3 sources of Qatar's imports. ये भी देखने वाली बात है, वो अगर इंडिया को छोड़ देता है, इसको कोई चीज, it will not get anything from Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Iran or Iraq. It has to come from India. All these items which this thing. So we have leverage, ऐसी बात नहीं है. And if it wants to buy these items from USA and France and all, it will come at 3 times the cost.
Cost will
ये
be
तो
more.
हमें पता ही है. So there are leverages still there. Okay. We have good to state relations. And Prime Minister Modi has gone there. Our External Affairs Minister has gone there. Their head of state from the Al Thani family has been coming from quite some time. A lot of visits have been going on. So we should not get unnecessarily perturbed by just because this has happened. 8 naval officers being sentenced to death is something important. We cannot overlook it, but we should take it coolly. Importantly, we have a lot of MOUs with Qatar, but there's one MOU on exchange of prisoners. I don't know if people know. As per this MOU, we can exchange prisoners. We can send people who are convicted in India back to Qatar, and people who are convicted in Qatar can be sent back to India. Now, this is something which is important, which we need to use. We also need to understand 48% of LNG requirement comes from Qatar. It is important for our energy security. 15,000 Indian companies operate in Qatar. So it's a source of foreign exchange for you. Inward remittance is $750 million per annum. Understand this. This is something important. 8 lakh people. I've said written 80,000. It is 8 lakh people. Sorry. In Qatar. We are the largest expatriates in Qatar. And Qatar has done investments in Airtel, Byju's, Adani, Daily Hunt, Swiggy, Reliance, and more. It has stakes in our Indian firms. Okay, you can't just wish away Qatar. Okay, so what are the options available with us? We know that this is a major problem, so we have to do it diplomatically on a state-to-state basis. Military means will not work out here. So what do? So first, you invoke the MOU diplomatically and carry out state-to-state talks. Mr. KP Fabian, who was ambassador of India in Qatar, he is of the opinion that these people will not be executed. They say, yeah, wait for Ramzan when these people can be pardoned by the emir or जो भी उनका ruler है, Qatari ruler. And जब उससे पूछा गया कि why we couldn't get this pardon earlier, he says, look, as per the legal system, unless a man is convicted, he cannot be, given riha or pardoned. So now that this has happened, if you invoke the MOU, do state-to-state talks, in all probability they will be, let go. And in any case, this whole process was known to us from quite some time. पिछले साल से चल रहा है ये. Okay, you can also contend this case in the International Court of Justice, but that means that we need to do when this case is no more. When this case can no more be solved within Qatar. Okay, you can do a local appeal. First court has said, go do an appeal at the higher court. Okay, and apply diplomatic pressure. We can also use the good offices of USA. USA is a strategic partner. So if it is a strategic partner and USA has so much stakes in Qatar, why can't we use that angle? वो इसके बारे में तो किसी ने बोला ही नहीं आज तक. And you can also pardon during, seek a pardon during Ramzan. Yeah, we can take the slides off. I finished off the slides. So
Right, sir. I think
लोग
I
बोल,
think
yeah, I think I've given a fair idea of the whole thing. So I'll take your questions or any questions from anyone also.
I have two questions that are
Yeah,
worrying me. The first one is I was reading somewhere that the Qatar India relations का आपस में थोड़ा सा मनमुटाव शुरू हुआ जब वो नुपुर शर्मा का केस हुआ था एंड जो कतार वाज द फर्स्ट कंट्री टू रजिस्टर इट्स प्रोटेस्ट विथ इंडिया और इसी वजह से तुरंत उसको पार्टी से निकाला गया और कई सारे वो क्या बोलते हैं उसको एक्शन लिए गए जिससे कि सिचुएशन को संभाला जा सके उसके बाद ये जो इंडियन नेवी ऑफिसर्स का जो एक्शन लिया है कतर ने मैं मानता हूं कि पिछले एक साल तक 8 अगस्त 2022 को इनके ऊपर कार्रवाई शुरू हुई एंड सिंस देन इनको दे हैव हैड अ काउंसलर विजिट्स आल्सो थ्राइस आई थिंक बट suddenly the timing of raising this kind of a dispute at the time when India has taken a stand for Israel vis-a-vis Hamas. I'm not talking Palestine. For Israel vis-a-vis Hamas. So, what could be the motivation? क्या गेम क्या है इस पर्टिकुलर इशू में व्हाट
see,
इज द गेम
we should be very clear. We have a huge Muslim population. We have large dealings with the Muslim world. And to at that point of time, that Nupur Sharma case came as a thing, and Qatar took it up. Qatar, very clearly put it across to us and expressed its displeasure. So, kahin na kahin, many of us, have not taken the sensitivities of the people with whom you are dealing with in international fora. The local people speak what they want. Right? Everyone who speaks in the TV, he is a motor mouth. वो बोल देता है कुछ भी बोल देता है कुछ भी बकवास कर देता है और उसके फॉलोअर्स भी होते हैं जो भी बोलना है बोल देते हैं ठीक है वो डेमोक्रेसी है हम
व्यू
कुछ भी
है
बोल सकते हैं
उनका व्यू है
राइट बट देयर आर इंटरनेशनल रिपरकशंस कुछ लोग बोल सकते हैं कुछ लोग बोल नहीं सकते Qatar chose to speak about it and remember it follows Sharia law very clearly
या
it is not a
वहाब वहाबिज्म
and yeah
प्योरेस्ट
Wahhabism.
प्योरेस्ट फॉर्म
So it took, and it might have been instigated by Pakistan also because it has good relations with Pakistan also. Remember, Pakistan, Taliban or US ka discussions used to go on in Doha only for 2 years or 3 years. So the we have to understand that Qatar does what it wants. Qatar has reached a stage where it does what it wants. Okay. Now, so we were caught on the back foot there. Okay. After that, we did what we had to do and all that.
हाँ
But उससे क्या है उसको एक clear idea मिल गया कि India cannot take tough stances against us. मेरा ख्याल में
ओके
ओके उसको भाई खून लगने वाली बात है एक बार लग गया तो दोबारा करेगा उसको एक 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 फुट आगे कर दिया तो अभी 4 फुट आगे करेगा ओके
ओके
नाउ ये कहानी जो है सी वी डोंट नो द रियलिटी ऑफ द केस कहा जा रहा है कि the Iranians, came through. Sorry, not Iranians. The Italians for the submarine deal came through Iranians, and were into this whole thing of training, ye, wo, all that.
या
The English people didn't like it, and the Westerners didn't like it, so they snitched on the whole deal, and they framed the thing, and they said these people are selling secrets to Israel, and they khol diya kuch. So we don't know. We don't know the actual case, or actual case or actual proceedings of this case. No one knows. What has urged Qatar to take this step? We don't know. To think that just because we have given a statement in support of Israel, right, against Hamas, that is why Qatar did this, I think is off the mark, in my personal opinion. So there is a deeper motive. Plus, there are others, okay, in the Western world who probably want to teach us a lesson. वो भी है। अभी आप देखिए, एक और ऑप्शन मैंने दिया ना, गो बैक टू यूएसए। यूएसए के पास जाओगे तो वो कनाडा के तरफ देखेगा।
हाँ
So
जी,
when
वही
you are
बोल।
playing this international game, you should be careful as to how what you're talking and where you're talking and how you're talking. Diplomacy is something which is very important in our whole context. At times we don't, we don't do the right thing. So that is the thing.
So
Okay.
you are alluding to the fact कि अभी हम कुछ कह नहीं सकते हैं। It could be a kind of a manipulation by international powers also
Yeah,
through
yeah,
Qatar,
yeah. It's highly
Qatar।
possible. Highly possible.
और
Highly possible.
ऐसा देखा भी गया है। It could also be that कि ईरान has
Yeah, it
influenced
could be Iran. It
so
could be even Pakistan.
middling
It could be
power
even
Iran,
Pakistan.
yeah, Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, and that combined could be the
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. It could be.
behind
And
this,
it
or
and behind all this, it could be even China.
yeah, and yeah, I would add, in fact, China, Iran, Pakistan, Turkey as one of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All these are probably completely, they would have given some. देखिए,
correct.
we are talking of international espionage scenario or misinformation. कुछ भी हो सकता है इसमें.
So the
So
and
if you go into that, I mean, let me put it this way: if you go into that now, you'll never come out of it. What is our interest as of now? What is our
get
interest as of now? Our interest is to get these 8 naval officers out. How
short
do you
term,
do that?
get these guys out somehow or the other.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah,
What are the
according to the,
leverages you have? That's why. What are the
that we have
leverages
discussed,
you have?
that we have discussed, that we have
Yeah,
discussed.
yeah.
आपने
Yeah.
डिस्कस कर लिया उसको। So
Okay.
I'm taking it to the next level. Suppose
Okay.
we manage to get the इन लोगों को हम छुड़ा लेते हैं, इंडिया में आ भी जाते हैं पार्डन के थ्रू, या जो आपने 3-4 ऑप्शंस बताए हैं। इंडिया के पास लिवरेजेस हैं, वेपनाइज कर सकते हैं हम अपनी
Yeah,
गैस
yeah,
की
yeah.
जो
Yes.
गैस वाला जो पुल है, उसको हम वेपनाइज कर सकते हैं कुछ ऐसी बैक ट्रैक डिप्लोमेसी करके। उसके बाद हमारा फिर अप्रोच क्या होगा? Will it continue as
देखिए,
business as same,
yeah, you
or
have to. I mean, you have to, but
yes,
देखिए,
something
you
else?
will have to continue with business not as usual, but from a different position. Your positions would have changed after this event. So certain amount of realism will come between Qatar and India as to how we deal with each other. But not dealing with Qatar is not an option. See, there's another thing which I want to talk. We have done a gas deal with Mozambique. So your dependence on Qatar is going to go down. Okay,
That's right.
that has come out in the past 1 week, 10 days.
I was
Okay,
coming to that actually. Yeah.
so that deal as we have done. So that itself gives you some leverage to handle Qatar.
Mm.
It gives you leverage, and it
Yeah,
also gives you some amount of energy security. It gives you some this thing.
alternate
So
options.
ये तो international relations में चलता रहता है. Okay, you cannot wave off Qatar completely because then you will probably end up in a bigger problem.
I I
Okay,
I fully agree. I fully agree with you on that count, sir. If you, I mean, हमको ऑडियंस को बताना जरूरी है कि पास्ट में जितने भी एक्चुअली हमारे प्रिजनर्स या किडनैप हुए हैं लोग, चाहे वो आईसिस में हुए हों, आईसिस ने किए हों या एक्यू ने किए हों, सुषमा स्वराज के टाइम से कतर उसमें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट भूमिका निभाता था जब हमारी नर्सेस को बाहर
yeah,
निकाला गया। कई सारी ऐसी चीजें
yeah,
आज से
yeah,
नहीं
yeah.
हो रहा है।
There's
सो
no doubt. Qatar helped us quite a bit to get all our nurses out. Qatar
करेक्ट,
helped us quite a bit in evacuating our people from many crisis
करेक्ट,
situations in that area, right?
इंक्लूडिंग
Including in
अफगानिस्तान।
Yemen,
या
including
यमन,
Afghanistan, Yemen also. Okay,
सो
so
हम
eh, we should use Qatar because see, देखिए मैंने बता दिया Qatar has good relations with everyone there. It has got good relations with the governments, and it has got good relations with the opposition to the governments. Okay, so if and we from India, and there's a large expatriate population of Indians in that area, or expatriates are there. अगर कल के दिन कहीं लड़ाई छिड़ गया, वहां से एक्सट्रिकेट करना है, तो you need someone to help you to get them out because we are all neutral to all situations there.
करेक्ट,
Okay, we
यस,
look. People talk ill of Iran today, but you have good equations with Iran also.
या एब्सोल्युटली,
You so you cannot today rule out Iran. If you do rule out Iran, how do you manage Pakistan?
Correct. अच्छा सर,
So
I'll
we should
come
know our diplomacy well. Yeah.
sir, coming to the next question, sir, which is like we said कि हमारा डायस्पोरा वहाँ पे 8 लाख के करीब है, लार्जेस्ट इन द मिडल ईस्ट। लेकिन वही एक वल्नरेबिलिटी भी बन जाता है हमारे लिए। तो उसमें क्या चेंजेस देखते हैं आपकी? व्हाट वुड इंडिया बी एक्चुअली नाउ डीलिंग विद द डायस्पोरा? हाउ विल वी डील विद द कतारी डायस्पोरा जो कि 8 लाख है? 8 लाख इज़ अ बिग ह्यूज नंबर।
देखिए, बात यह
वो
है
एक
कि why
और
Qatar?
यहाँ पर एक और
नहीं, नहीं, why
सर,
Qatar? Why Qatar
नहीं, यहाँ
only?
यहाँ यहाँ पर एक और बात बताना चाहता हूँ, कतर के लिए जो स्पेशल है, वो है कफ़ाला सिस्टम है वहाँ पे सर। और कफ़ाला सिस्टम में क्या होता है कि ये उन्होंने अपने सिटीज़न्स को छूट दे रखी है कि आप किसी को भी, किसी भी कंडीशन में, किसी भी शर्त पर एम्प्लॉय कर सकते हो। दैट इज़ व्हाई उनके यहाँ ज़्यादा लोग आते हैं। एंड these conditions are very deplorable at times, what I have come to know. So ये 2 चीज़ों को
Agreed.
देखते हुए, what are the changes which you expect in the Indian
See,
policy?
I agree with what you are saying, okay? But there are certain fundamental facts, yes, man. The fundamental facts are that we have a huge amount of expatriates working under different conditions with different in different countries all over Middle East. वहाँ तो
Correct.
second generation, third generation भी हो गए, ठीक है?
बिल्कुल।
और a whole lot of them send money back for
रेमिटेंस।
repatriation,
या,
remittance. So it's a major source of foreign income. इसमें दो
बिल्कुल।
राय नहीं है हमें, हम भूल नहीं सकते हैं इसको, okay?
करेक्ट।
So if given that, you cannot wish away from Qatar. Qatar employs all of our people, okay? Now, the difference is how do we send this people to Qatar who are up in the value chain rather than low in the value chain?
हुँ,
More educated people, invest in education, invest in tourism, invest in, all other dependencies, right?
करेक्ट।
I mean, एक और बात है, आप बोल ही रहे हैं, तो आप देखिए आईमेक में जो है ना, कतर इज आउट ऑफ इट इंसिडेंटली।
या।
ये कतर इज आउट ऑफ इट, उसको ये भी प्रॉब्लम है कि हमने उसको बाहर कर दिया। क्यों बाहर कर दिया? बिकॉज यूएई एंड सऊदी अरेबिया डिडंट वांट कतर इन दिस, ओके? सो देयर आर वेरियस वेज। ये ना, इट्स अ स्नेक पिट। अगर हाथ डालोगे तो कोई ना कोई सांप डसेगा आपको, और हो सकता है निकल भी आए, right? So you have to be careful and be sensitive, and to a large extent we have to behave internally also, in a balanced manner. I see also here also some people say ban Qatar Airways, ban ye, ban wo problem hoga, ऐसे नहीं है, right? And ये भी बोल रहे हैं कि because we conducted the raids on Qatar Airways, all that is happening. It's not so straight and forward. It could be like that, it need not be like that also. So there are leverages. So since they have done this, you can say if you want Qatar Airways to come back here, leave them. So you have to build leverages. This is a
या,
game of leverages. You have to play this game Qatar way,
करेक्ट। आई
not
थिंक
our way.
बिल्कुल सर, यू आर राइट सर। हमारे पास भी काफ़ी मुद्दे हैं ऐसे जिनसे हम कतर को प्रेशराइज़ कर सकते हैं। इसके बारे में काफ़ी डिटेल डिस्कशन हो गया, हम रिपीट